Brandon. I am the program director at YMCA. The majority of my job is setting up and some adult sports. Then I assist with like the senior group, some of that stuff that we do there.
I can just do it.
Okay. So the first sport that I'm going to cover is pickleball. So we have nets that we can build and set up and take down in one of our gyms. For largely in the summertime, when it rains, we have people show up, or in the winter, it's very popular. Some of the locations in town is Washington Park has a few nets, and then I believe there's one other location in town. So just to cover, this is roughly the court size. There's either singles or doubles. Doubles is much more common. It's honestly much easier playing with two people. So there's alternating serves. So for doubles, each person on each team will serve in a sense of if I serve and I lose the point, my partner will still end up serving no matter what. So it's not a rally serve, so not every single serve is a point given. Only the serving team can gain a point. That's the way the points work. So you must serve diagonally. It's super similar to tennis in that aspect. This little white area is called the kitchen. So if it's going to land in the kitchen, your feet cannot stand in the kitchen. You have to let it hit, and then you turn it, and on the serve, the ball has to hit the ground before hitting it. So on the serve, you have to serve it below your waist, but when it returns, you can swing upwards or down to hit the ball, but you can't do it on the serve. You have to wait for it to bounce on your side to return it. And so you can't spike on the serve. So points are scored only by the team serving, unless it's rally scoring specifically. Typically, it's played to 11 points, and it's won by 2, similar to many other sports. In tournaments, they do 15 or 21 points for a lot more competitive sports. And then, usually when they do that, they do rally scoring, so it doesn't take as long to play the games. So when there's the scoring, you stand on the right side when it's an even number for your side scoring. So when you have doubles, you announce 3 specific numbers. You say your score, then their score, and then a third number. So if I'm up 2-0, then I also say 1, stating that I'm serving on the right side. Because the right side is 1, the left side is 2. So it's very complicated when it gets into that aspect. When I play with my friends and stuff, we don't do that. It's way too much. But like competitively and tournament wise, they stand by those rules. So when you're serving on the right side or the left side, it's going to be the odd numbers. So that's just a basis on how to play it. And then the exterior lines are inbounds. It's very similar to tennis in a lot of those aspects. So bocce ball. This one I've never actually played before. So when I was researching, I thought it was pretty interesting. So you can have a lot of, you don't need the way this is set up, you can just wait for the basket. So up to 8 people can play. You just grab whichever ball you need. You just evenly divide them. And then the initial person throws the little white ball. You just roll it out. And then the goal is to get to the closest to the ball, which I don't know how to pronounce that. Which is the target ball. So then they alternate who throws the ball to get closest, and you can get inside of there's a shot circle basically to get closest to the ball, and you can hit your opponent's balls away as a strategy to get to the closest is a lot of the way they play. Then the closest to the minimum is the team that gets the point. And then there's no ball closest, they get the points. And then they just continue playing up until they get to 13 points. So that's the rough idea on how to play. There's no like locations or anything with the stuff already available in the area that I'm aware of. But they sell them at stores. So, it's pretty loosely priced. So that's cornhole. There's many different ways to play this, and it's very different. The way I play with, I play competitively with, which is like in the ACL tour rules. It's a competitive league, but there's also like house rules and some of that stuff. So for the basics, each team gets 4 bags. They're either colored or they have logos, and they're filled with typically corn. That's how you get the cornhole. And you alternate throws based on the 2 teams. You can play single players, 2 players. If it's single player, it's a lot more walking. If it's 2 players, you're supposed to stand across from your teammate, not diagonal. So you're really not playing with them in all the aspects. You're playing with a stranger or a person. So there's from front board to front board, it's 27 feet apart from each other. And then the board's dimension are 4 feet long by 2 feet wide. And then they call it a pitcher's box. Is just where you stand to throw the bag. And it's 3 feet wide. It's fairly small because you pretty much are just stepping up throwing. It's not anything on this. And then for the scoring, each bag on the board itself is worth 1 point. And if it's inside the hole, it's 3 points. And then you just do the subtraction of one team gets 4 points, the other team got 3 points. So you can subtract it and get 1 point. So I did 7 points for one team. Another, so you got 4 points for that one. And then you keep scoring up to 21 points. So they do for like the tour, they do it as first team to 21 points, winning by 2, the game is over. But if you play with friends and families, they play a lot of different rules. So they play, you have to land exactly on 21 to even out the competition. So if you go over 21, they call it a bust. So you can go back to the score you previously were at, or they predetermine a set number. Which they set that up. Then if it hits the ground, it's a dead bag. It doesn't count for that one. That's pretty much the basics of bags. It's pretty simple. Once you play a couple of times, it's pretty fun, honestly. So, horseshoes. This one I thought was interesting when I was researching it, because I hadn't played it competitively or anything. I just played it as an out. So, it's teams of typically 1 or 2 participants, and then they throw at the metal stake that's on the ground between 20 and 40 feet away. So when they throw it, they can hit, and once it goes all the way around, they have a specific term for it. It's a ringer, and it encircles the metal ring with a metal. So they make a new ring. So if they do that, it's worth 3 points. Then you also get an additional point for closest to the stake, just in general. So you can potentially get 4 points. But if you throw it and you do a ringer, then another one also throws at the opponent, and they do it and it lands on top of it, they wash each other out. So it potentially you could have a wash system where there's 0 points actually gotten. It's super similar to cornhole in that aspect of we can wash out the scores from the 2 teams. And then there's also the 21st to 21. I'm not too sure if they have the win by 2 method personally, I would think that would make the most amount of sense, so we just don't run that one. So I have baseball and softball. Is one that's a super popular summer sport for, and we run a T-ball program, which is we run for 3 to 6 year olds, trying to get them used to just playing catch and throwing it in. So for baseball and softball, they have different dimensions, and then so for little kids, the dimensions are smaller. And then, but for the bigger adults, baseball the dimensions are 90 feet from each base, all the way around. And then softball is 60 feet, which is the dimensions for collegiate and professional. And then just kind of for the levels, it's T-ball, and then you have coach pitch, where one of the coaches are going to throw the ball for them, and then they have player pitch, which is elementary age up until professional, which is the most common. We have ample amount of fields in the area, Hegler Park, Washington Park, Hegler. They're everywhere. Some of the parks only have like a baseball field or a softball field, but Hegler Park in the south has both. And so both of them. So, you guys ever wonder about swimming back? That's the place to go. So, and then you have 3 strikes, 4 balls to determine you're able to go to first base and stuff like that. There's a ton of rules on baseball. That's just a overall sport. So for basketball, pretty common sport. This one's an all-year sport. There's many different variations of how many people can and cannot play. Like you can do 3-on-3, 1-on-1. Then the traditional is 5-on-5. With 1 point being a free throw, 2 points being anywhere inside this like circle or half circle area, which is a 3-point line. Then outside of that, anywhere else on the court is worth 3 points. In a traditional game, but like when you just play pickups with friends, they usually just do 1 point and 2 points, and they just shift a lot of the rules. Then there's a 3-point or 3-second violation if it's inside that blue area. It's called the paint. And then 8-second backcourt violation, which is just the white half. So if you were to get the ball inbounds, and you don't bring it past this white line, 8 seconds you get a whistle blown and then 5 seconds is super similar. It's just not being able to pass the ball inbounds from any of the exterior. As the inbounds violations. You have chest pass, bounce pass. Then usually when there's not much time left, they do single arm passes. Like you have to throw it in like a football. Now, the best way to transport the ball is dribbling it or passing them. Then there's tons of variations of how to dribble and more than just a single hand. If you do double hand, it's a double dribble. Stuff like that. And for turnovers, you got blocking a shot, stealing the ball from either the pass or just when they're dribbling it, just stealing the ball. And then rebounding the ball for the shot. And there's a ton of ways to foul people as well. You can do that shots or just running into them and stuff like that. And it's a sport for all ages. Pretty much from the time you're able to pick up a ball, you can shoot to. We have Rock Steady Bouncing as one of our programs, and earlier today they were playing basketball. So a bunch of 70, 80-year-old people are playing basketball to 2-year-olds. So anybody can do it. Then we have some facilities at the parks, and pretty much every school has gyms and stuff like that. So volleyball, we have volleyball courts. Most schools have them. In fact, for beach volleyball, Hegler Park has, I believe, one. I believe Riverfront is the only other one. A lot of bars are starting to do it because it's a very fun sport that we have us all about. And stuff like that. So traditionally, they do serving behind the exterior line. they don't have to hit it to any specific location on the other side as long as it goes over the line. Then you can only hit the ball 3 times once it's returned to your side. And if you go to block the ball at the net, it doesn't count as one of the touches. So hypothetically, if I jump up and it hits my hand, but it still lands behind me, we still have 3 touches. And any person on the team can hit the ball 2 times. It just cannot be consecutive. So a lot of times one person receives the ball, then you have another person who, when it's in the air, they just set it back up, or another person who jumps and tries to spike it over when it gets to the competitive level. So there's different scoring systems similar to like the pickleball on like rally scoring, or you can serve and like only the serving team gets the point. And they do, once it's to like high school and college level, you have to win at 25, 21, or 15, and you have to win by 2 points as well. So that's largely how it is. And then there's usually a line judge, and there's someone who stands in like a half a ladder type thing at the net, because you can't touch the net at all. So they do net violations, and there's like little wooden sticks that stick up from the net. So if it hits that, it's out of bounds and stuff like that, because you can't hit it too far outside of the net. So, but if it hits like it's a live ball until it goes and hits another person that's like in the stands or some of that stuff. It's being mindful of that. Like once you play, you understand how to do it. So soccer, which is actually the most popular sport in the world, but we're the country that calls it soccer. It's called football in other nations. So there's the 6-yard box, then the 18-yard box, the penalty spot, and in the 18-yard box, the goalie is the only person allowed to touch the ball with their hands. And if someone else does inside the 18-yard box, they get a penalty kick, which is a low red spot, no matter what. So the goalie can hypothetically go anywhere on the field. They just tend to stay in that 18-yard box, because otherwise they don't have anyone to defend the goal. So for the equipment, you have to have shin guards with socks covering them. And the cleats are specific. They have to be plastic cleats because that was a big problem I played, is a lot of kids try to wear like the baseball cleats, but they can't because they have the metal tips, and then the toe spot. At the toe, they cannot have a spike, but like football and baseball have a toe spike. So that was a big safety concern, because a lot of times you step on each other's feet just unintentionally. And then there's indirect and direct kicks. So direct kicks and indirect kicks, usually the goalie is in charge of setting up his defense on where he wants them to stand and how many people to block the kick. So a direct kick, they can kick it from, usually they don't do it unless it's like within like this 75-yard spot to try and actually score in the goal. Majority of them are indirect kicks that you have one person just like tap the ball to their teammate to actually set up an offense. It's not super common, but professionally they do a lot of stuff on it. So then if a ball goes out on this end line, it's a goal kick if it's out on the defense. And that's where they kick the ball off the 6-yard box. And then if it's out on the offense on this side, it's a corner kick where they're trying to kick it into the goal, which can go in directly, or it can go you pass to another offensive player to set them up. Then usually the goalie kind of sets up his offense and defense when he gets the ball to distribute it, so they can all make an offensive push rather than just like punting the ball and it just getting turned over. Then on the sides, they do overhead passings and stuff like that. Then the ball starts off in the center line of the circle, and they have to pass the ball backwards before they can move. Is okay. Then Vinny, I have Vinny here to explain this.
Okay.
So for this golf, there's different discs. So you guys want.
Okay. And then different weights. What's the difference?
So they're not different weights. So if you look at the one you're holding right now, it's got a very beveled edge compared to the one in the front. And that makes it more aerodynamic so that it can fly farther. So it's not like a normal catch frisbee. You know, that you wouldn't want to play catch with that because it could really injure your hand.
Yeah.
Yep, so just like traditional golf, you have different discs, like you would have different clubs. So for different distances and different shots, you would want to use a different disc. So like the one that you're holding or that you're passing right now, that one, yep, that one's the putter. So that is the most blunt, and that one has the least distance potential. And then the one you're passing back right now, that's a mid-range. That's kind of in between the drivers and the putters. And you play it just like a normal golf where there's a tee box or teeing area, and then you have a basket which looks like this. That is your hole. So it's counted in strokes. Every throw is a stroke. And whenever you get to where you threw, when you throw a disc, when you walk up to it, that's called your lie. You can set down another disc in front of it and pick up the same one you just threw if you need to throw that one. And then when you throw it your second time, that's your second throw, second stroke. You want to have the least amount of strokes because at the end of the day, it is still golf. You want to have the lowest score. There is a, we call it circle 1 and circle 2. So wherever your disc lands, if it were to land here, and my basket is where Brandon is, I have to stand behind it before I throw my next disc. Inside of circle 1, which is 10 meters or about 33 feet, I cannot cross this disc until the disc I threw comes to a rest. Otherwise, that's called a foot foul, and you get a penalty stroke because you want to be able. But if you were 200 feet away and you threw a shot, you can walk right past it after you release it. But you have to throw it from basically a sheet of paper behind the disc from where it landed. It's just like normal golf. You have hole-in-ones, which are called aces or hole-in-one. It's a little bit more common in disc golf than it is regular golf to have a hole-in-one. But
Are they all going to be the same color?
no. If you look, so I play a lot of tournaments, and you can see I have all sorts of discs.
What is the speed? Is it once it's got speed on the back?
Yeah, so that's how fast you have to move the disc for it to do what it's supposed to do. So like this disc is designed, when I throw it backhand, it's actually going to move this way. And then as it slows down, it's going to come back. Some discs like this one, it is never, no matter how hard you throw it, it's never going to move right. It's only going to move left. Because unlike traditional golf, our fairways, you're not actually trying to avoid bunkers or anything. You're actually moving around trees. So your fairways are usually alleys of trees, and you want to navigate through that alley to the left if it's a hallway to the left or if it's a hallway to the right. Or if it's a straight shot, then you have to make that disc go straight, and almost none of them want to go straight. If you've ever played catch, I'm sure you've always seen it dive off to the left or dive off to the right.
And there's so many, like, there's so many holes, there's like, 18 holes, are there so many baskets, or what do you call them?
Yeah, so we call them baskets,
Baskets?
and a lot of parks, it's very inexpensive to put in a disc golf course. It's about $7,000 to put in just baskets, and it's about $12,000 to put in a full course with baskets and concrete tee pads. So a lot of courses actually are able, or a lot of parks are able to afford putting 2 different tee positions in one basket. So technically, you have 36 holes at one disc golf course for the most part, and that's like at Rotary Park and Lehigh Park, which is called Starved Rock Disc Golf Course. That's in Oglesby. There is 2 tee pads, a short and a long, and then a basket for every single hole. When you go outside of our area to bigger areas and bigger parks, there's actually parks that have 3 individual disc golf courses on the same property or more, because it only takes about an acre a hole. So up in Rockford, there's a park called Anna Page Park, and they actually have 3 courses where each course has 2 basket positions and 2 tee pads. So there's almost 200 holes on one property. You could never play that many in one day. Your arm would fall off.
They have to have a lot of strains to throw those discs, so.
It's more of a form. If you
Okay.
can start a pulling lawnmower, you can throw 300 feet.
Okay.
So that's what I always tell people. But like this disc and this disc, I can get to go up to 500 feet, which is like 1 2/3 of a football field. And then these, like my putters, I can get to go about a football field. So, Jim, that's about it. It's fun to watch a disc fly. If you guys haven't, you can look that up online.
So are they called tees then? No, where you start,
Yeah, they're called tee pads.
they're called tee
Yeah,
pads.
they're just concrete. They kind of look like a section of sidewalk. They're
Right,
about 8 to sometimes 20 feet long,
okay. And they're
because you kind of do like a run up.
And then there's 2 different at each. Why is there 2, like hole number 10, there's 2 of them. What is the difference?
At hole number 10, there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
Tee pads.
Oh, 2 different tee pads. So one of the cool things about disc golf is the angle that you have to get to the basket, because you're trying to make a disc shaped to the left or to the right.
Yeah.
You can put a tee pad 400 feet away from a basket. It's going to take most people 2 throws to get there. Well, that shorter tee pad, you can make it a harder shot for like how you have to shape the disc, but it's only 300 feet. So now you can get it to that same basket in 1 throw. You just have to have more skill to get it there. So that's how they manage a lot of it.
So they're just called tee pads no matter, even though like we see there's 2 of them sitting there, they're just tee pads.
Yep.
It's similar to like a tee box in golf. It's,
Okay.
They have different verbiage, and they are able to manipulate like how many spots they do it. So, that's what I say.
This an Olympic sport now?
Not yet. It was in the talks to be an Olympic sport, but it did not get the funding. There wasn't enough other countries that could staff a team, so they were afraid that the U.S. was just going to mow everybody down. But it's actually a very, very big thing. The best female player right now is actually from Estonia. But you want to pass that around. That's what one shape of a disc would look like. So that, I threw it backhand, but it just pushes to the right the whole time. And that went like 450 feet.
Did you see it, Roseanne? You might have. Oh. Wow. And then you walk the entire course there.
Mhm.
And do you carry a backpack or?
Yep. So this is my tournament bag.
That's your turn.
It's nice because a lot of times you will, because the courses that you play in tournaments are so hard, you'll have people lose discs, and you can't just abandon your disc. So this is actually a stool built into this one, and you can sit on it and wait for your turn to play the hole. And tournaments can range in cost from $20 to $500. And they can pay out in sometimes like gift cards to buy more discs or towels or bags to cash, depending on what division you play. Because there's age protected divisions, there's female protected divisions, and I mean, there's even junior divisions. There's a lot of junior tournaments that started popping up in Illinois. The actual junior worlds was just in Peoria last year. And they had like, I think it was 2,200 juniors compete from ages, I think it's 7 all the way up to 18.
Are we going to have any tournaments here locally?
Yeah, I'm actually running 4 this year.
Okay,
They're all going to be at Rotary and Lehigh Park.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you know the dates out at Broadway?
I haven't been able to nail those down yet with the city because the city is not, they aren't as supportive as they thought they would be. They need to put in a little bit more parking, otherwise I could lose my sanctioning for the event, which would mean I would lose my insurance through the governing body that we run tournaments through. Yeah. So Lehigh Park is a bigger issue than Rotary Park. There will for sure be 2 tournaments at Rotary Park.
There'll be 2 for sure at Broadway,
Mhm.
but you don't know about it.
Lehigh, they have to either work with me to get a shuttle service going, to shuttle players from public parking safely to the site, because there's no crosswalk and not enough available on-site parking. So where that dog park is, there's not enough parking there to actually support the tournament. So unfortunately, we will have to shuttle people in.
Let's go about dogs. How do dogs react to that?
It depends on the dog. Some don't care at all. Like my German Shepherd,
When you throw it, does it make a noise?
not really, no. They're almost silent. Yeah, if you were sitting 300 feet away from the person who threw it and having a picnic somewhere under a tree, you probably never know it until it hit the ground and it made a thud. Yeah, they're kind of weird. It's eerie, kind of like an owl. It's just barely displacing any air as it goes through the air. And they're moving up to 50 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
So
Where did this ever originate from, this game?
it originated actually in California. And Illinois was actually the second state to have a disc golf course with baskets. So that was up at Highland Park in Joliet.
And they still have that one out at IBCC.
Yep. We just played league on it last night. We have a league that we have about 40 players every week, and we rotate to different courses in the area. Between Streeter Marilla Park, Ottawa Fox River Park, we have Ivy, Baker, Rotary, Lehigh. We're currently building a park up in Mendota. One of the nice things about the areas is all the hotels that you see around, they have to pay a pillow tax as part of the booking when you book a hotel. And what that money's there for is for tourism and parks. One of the things that's included in that tourism bill that you can use that money for is disc golf. So that's how the Oglesby Park at Lehigh got put in. That's how part of where they got the money for Rotary Park. That's where they got the second set of tee pads from. And then Mendota is funding it solely off of that pillow tax. So it's been no impact to the taxpayers, which has been awesome.
Where in Mendota do they plan to put it?
At Lake Mendota.
By the softball?
Yep, by the ball fields, and they're actually gonna stretch out by the bigger lake. You know where all those trees are and the walking path that goes around the lake? So it's actually gonna branch out into there as well.
How long is it, average, about how long does it take to play?
To play 18 holes, if you're by yourself, you can get 18 holes done in an hour and 10 minutes, especially at like Baker Lake or at ECC. Rotary Park, it's a lot more challenging of a terrain. So you're looking at about 2.5 hours there
Okay.
to play a full 18. But that's just because it's not as well maintained. There's a lot of tall grass where you're going to look for frisbees.
So 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Which compared to a normal round of golf can take you 5 hours, depending on how many people are in front of you and the pace of play. Like this, you don't have as much of a problem with pace of play.
And it's very inexpensive compared to regular golf.
Golf, yeah, golf
That-
easily a couple $1,000s.
These starter packs, and as long as you don't lose them, they're about $50 and they include the bag. So it's way better to get like a grandson or granddaughter into this than it is normal golf, because you can drop them off at the park.
This is like a golf, like a 12-pack of golf balls, and the nicest golf balls that like just a regular person would play are $50. Just for a 12-pack, you may lose 1 or 2 here or there just because you can't find it because it gets lost in some tall grass. And that's not even counting golf clubs ranging thousands of dollars.
Taking care of those golf clubs with grips.
So you could just play with like that.
Oh, if you're a casual player, there is nothing wrong with just 4 discs and a bottle of water, so you don't get dehydrated out there. Any questions? No.
How long have you been playing?
Only 4 years. Yeah. And I am right at that edge where I'm playing some pro tournaments and actually winning cash instead of the gift cards. So,
Okay. So, and when you have the tournament at Rotary Park, we can come out and watch.
oh, of course.
Okay.
There's not going to be very many good places to watch from
Yeah.
because most of it is away from the walking areas. But there's a couple places where, I mean, you could sit on the bench and watch everybody in the field play through. And it's cool watching a disc fly, even from like farther away. It's really cool.
Will they start early morning, or what time do you usually start?
Most tournaments are 2 rounds. So you have a morning round and then an afternoon round.
Okay.
And they usually start about 9 o'clock is the first deal. It's usually shotgun start, so everybody starts on a hole out there and they go.
So there's ultimate frisbee, which is slightly different. It's kind of a combo of disc golf and football. So football, their end zones are 10 yards. So this would only be half of it. These are 20 yards, and then the playing area is a lot different size-wise compared to like football. So the big difference between ultimate frisbee and football is there's no contact at all, and you can't run with the disc. So I believe you only can like move your feet like 2 or 3 steps, kind of like just to reset your feet to re-throw, because you really want to like step into it before you throw. So it's a lot more of communication with your team, what they need to do, because you're going to have to try and lead them into the end zone, into open spots that they both have to, they almost have to be minor in each other, and where the spot's going to be. So you have the thrower, and they're only given 10 seconds to throw the disc, and the defender as well. So it's a lot more of off-disc movement to get open than some of the other sports. So each point begins with a representative standing, and they basically kick off the disc. They launch the disc to the other team to start on in or near their own end zone, and then they start moving to get to their scoring end zone. So they put 10 seconds to throw and make a pass, and in the defense, if it's a dropped disc or intercepted or goes out on any of the exterior sides, it's a turnover, and then they just redo that. And then if they scored, the team that scored is the one that actually runs to the other side with the disc. So the team that actually is going to end up going on offense, they don't have to run, but then have to run again to score. So that's the big difference. There's not as much. Then if you have extra teammates that aren't on the field, once the disc is dead or a turnover were to happen, they can rotate each other. Because it's a lot more. There's not like as many officials and stuff like that as football, so they do their own substitutions and they call their own like fouls and some of that stuff. Usually there's not too much aggression when it comes to it, pushing people over and stuff because it's going to be obvious and those result in turnovers. So. So I had 2 slides where just because there's a lot more like fouls and possession changes. Basically, there's no physical contact at all. Then they also do injury timeouts, and they have timeouts that they can use throughout the game. Since each touchdown or scoring possession is only worth 1 point, and there is a goal score as well. So it's just self-creation. And like on big tournaments and stuff, they have multiple. They'll have officials and stuff, but if it's just like friends and stuff, they don't really do it as much. In colleges, one of my buddies in college at Illinois State, they have an ultimate frisbee like club team. So it's their college actually will travel and play other colleges. It's just not a collegiate sport at like a smaller school like that. I'm willing to bet they do have that offer, but I haven't heard too much more than just like a club sport and friends just playing with each other. That's why the bigger tournaments have officials, but smaller stuff don't offer that. So for golf, so this one has a lot more aspects. So a normal golf bag, you have the driver, so then there's a 3-wood or a 3-iron, or 3 hybrid, 5 hybrid, 6 hybrid, 9 hybrid. And then these are called irons. They range from, you can have a 1 iron, not very common. You can buy a set of these, and they range from a 3 iron or 4 iron to a pitching wedge. So you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then it goes to pitching wedge. You get a sand wedge and like a lob wedge. So sand wedges and lob wedges, they're based on degrees. So there's like a 56 degree. I have a 56 and a 63 degree. I like my golf bag. And then there's a putter. And then there's different shapes of putters because they kind of can do some different things. So each club, the higher number it gets, the degree would be getting higher as well. Just to be able to get under the ball more, to like do a flop shot in the sense they're just flopping it up and it just hits the ground and stops. Rather than like a 3-iron, you're trying to hit it flush with the ball and just push it up in the air so it goes up and then just dies down. But it hits and just rolls. Rather than like some of the pitching wedges and not the same wedges, you're trying to pick the ball up and drop it back down at a set spot. So there's usually you can play 9 or 18 holes, which many of the courses, there's some courses that are only 9 holes, but you can play them twice. To walk, depending on the type of day it is, it will take you an hour and a half for 9 holes to 2 hours to about 4 hours for 18 holes. It's kind of like when you're going out to golf, you go with the expectation of it taking 4 hours. So some people get agitated when it takes longer, especially when there's not a need, because people search for a ball more than they really need to. Like in big tournaments, you have to find the ball because you have to play every stroke. And it's similar to disc golf in like you get the penalty strokes. You can drop a ball for a stroke, and if it goes in the water, there's usually drop zones and some of that stuff. When I play with my friends, we're not as strict on some of that stuff because we're not overly competitive. So for the scoring, the holes are either 3, 4, or 5s for the scoring system. So you can either get a hole in one. An albatross is 2 strokes under what the par would be. So a par 3 is, you have to get it in 3 holes. So an albatross is 2 under. A birdie would be 1 under that score. Then par is the exact same number. Bogey is 1 over. So a lot of the times, like around here, it's a par 4 hole. I'll get a bogey, so I'll get a 5 on it. Or a double bogey is a 6, and it just keeps going up. I mean, usually we cut it off at 8 because that could be 3 over, 4 over, and at that point it's just not fun because you're putting, and it's usually the putting green is where you struggle the most. So there's many tee boxes. For golf, we call it tee boxes. And there's different colors. The courses, they change the coloring of them. So usually the red tees are either the women's tees or the kids play tees. They're called senior tees. So it's usually like if there's a creek and stuff, they usually play on the other side of the creek just because they're not going to be able to hit a ball. Their driver 200 to 300 yards. It's not as realistic. So there's that. And then yellow is a lot more women play those tees. And it's a lot more senior guys play the yellow tees. White tees are where me and my friends play because we're average golfers. It's not the biggest deal if we play the blue tees because from the blue tees to the white tees, it's usually only like 20 to 30 minutes. Then the gold tees or the black tees are professionals. There's not many of those around here. So then there's a ton of courses in the area. Most towns have at least 1 or 2. And then there's a bunch more rules on old clubs and stuff like that. It's an interesting sport, but it's very expensive and time consuming. And then flag football. This is a program we're actually just launching at the Y this fall. It's in a lot of aspects football and a lot of aspects of disc ultimate frisbee with like the football rules with the playbooks. Since we're partnered with the NFL flag, all the kids get to wear like the actual jerseys because we order jerseys for them. And then the playing field, it changes. So we're doing kindergarten to second grade is one age group with a set playing field, 3rd, 4th grade, 6th grade. The older 2 age groups get their own set playing field. They play on the same size field. So NFL flag was founded in the early 90s, but they didn't actually have their inaugural season until 94. most of the kids age 5, 6-year-olds to 12-year-olds. So it's kindergarten to 6th grade in most aspects. Because we found, based on their research and other USA Flag, which used to be partnered with them, that middle school age is when the kids actually start playing tackle football, and then high school they play tackle. But they do have flag football nationally. They do huge tournaments, and I think last year was in Indianapolis, and this year they're doing it in Minneapolis. So they do huge tournaments. Teams all over the nation come and play. So that's the biggest one. And they play where I think they just added it into the Olympics for adults. So I mean, there's high school and collegiate age stuff. Like when I was in college, my fraternity we had a flag football team, and it was pretty popular. It was a huge program that the university offered. So it's a pretty big sport worldwide. Is there any generalized questions you have?
With bocce ball, what is the object of it? You're supposed to hit the opponent's ball.
So there's a little white ball that you're aiming to get your ball the closest to it. So part of the strategy may be to hit their ball out of the way.
Why did the cross flag football?
Because everybody wears like a belt with like 3 flags hanging out. So the objective is whoever has the ball, you want to pull the flag off. So if you pull the flag off and you just drop it where it is, that's going to be the new line of scrimmage. But their next play would be it.